Hey 7th grade, this is going to be a quick YouTube video walking through some example problems for your assignment today. What we're doing today is we are adding and subtracting positive and negative mixed numbers. This is actually a pretty simple process. There are 4 basic steps. Step 1 is going to be to convert each mixed number to an improper fraction. This is really important because otherwise, if you keep them as mixed numbers, things will get very complicated, especially when negative numbers are already complicated. Step 2, you're going to find a common denominator for each improper fraction and rewrite them as equivalent fractions. Step 3, simply add or subtract the numerators. And step 4 is to simplify. So I'm going to show you how this looks. So for our first example, we have 3 1/5 minus 5 2/3. So we can already tell that this answer is going to be negative. So we are going to convert the mixed number into a improper fraction. So I'm going to write out 3 1/5. So we have 3 wholes and 1/5. So because we're dealing with fifths, that means that we are going to multiply our denominator by our whole number, which should be 3 times 5, which is 15 fifths. So we want to understand that our 3 wholes is going to be equal to 15 fifths. So we want to stay with fifths. We can see that 15 divided by 5 is equal to 3. And we're going to add our 1/5 that we already have. So that is why 3 1/5 equals 16 fifths. And I'm not going to walk through that process for all of these problems. So we have 3 1/5, which is equal to 16 fifths. And we are subtracting 5 2/3, which is minus 17 thirds. So now we have our improper fractions. What we need to do now is find our common denominator. I know that the least common multiple of 5 and 3 is 15. I know that I multiply this 5 times 3 to get to 15. So this 16 times 3 would be 48. And I multiply this 3 by 5 to get to 15. So this 17 times 5 would be 85. So now I am left with a pretty simple problem. I am doing 48 minus 85, and I know that my denominator is going to stay as 15. So if I was using a huge number line, I would start at 48 and go 85 units to the left, because subtracting a positive means the answer gets smaller. And I know that is going to equal a negative 37. And I knew my answer would be negative at the beginning. Just going to convert this into a mixed number. So I know 15 goes into 37 twice, and there are 7 left over. Move on to another one. This time we have a negative 3 3/4 plus 1 5/6. So negative 3 3/4 turns into negative 15 over 4, and then plus 11 over 6. Going to have our common denominator of 12, so that's going to be negative 45 twelfths plus 22 twelfths. And you can see once we have our common denominator, we are simply adding or subtracting integers, positive or negative numbers. Negative 45 plus 22 is going to equal negative 23. And that is going to equal negative 1 11 twelfths. Problem 3, negative 5 3/8 minus 3 5/6. So we're going to start at negative 5 3/8, and our answer is going to be smaller than that, so farther down into the negatives. So we actually have a pen that's not working. Where are we at here? Trying to write. Okay. Well, should I type or should I write? There we go. Sorry about that. We have negative 43/8 minus 23/6. Common denominator is going to be 24. This is when our math facts come in very, very useful. This is going to turn into a negative 129/24 minus 92/24. And we have our denominator. So we just need to do our negative 129 minus 92. And that is going to be negative 221/24. Right? When you have a negative minus a positive, you can just add those two numbers together, and you know that the sign is going to stay negative. And if I am converting this to back to a mixed number, I can see that 24 goes into 221 9 times, because 9 times 24 is 216, so I'm going to have 5 left over. And my answer is going to be negative. It'll be negative 9 5/24. Okay, last one. We have 3 3/5 plus a negative 7 2/3. So that's going to go 18/5 plus, and remember, the only reason we have the parentheses is so we separate the positive and the negative signs. So plus a negative 23/3, close the parentheses. If we want to eliminate the plus sign, that's fine, right? We could just simply rewrite the original problem as 3 3/5 minus 7 2/3. We'll get the same result, but I didn't change it for this problem. So common denominator is going to be 15. So 54/15 plus a negative 115/15, because we multiply both of those numbers by 5. So now we have 54 plus a negative 115, which equals a negative 61/15, which equals negative 4 1/15. So the steps for these problems are pretty simple. Your ability to use your math facts and add and subtract negatives is going to be the tough part. Good luck.